Hi, everyone, welcome. Sit back and get ready to listen to the story. Sit back and drift off to sleep peacefully. Please subscribe and leave a comment. It is tempting to imagine that royal wealth in medieval Europe purchased an easy escape from winter's cold, that a king or queen, surrounded by servants and furnished with the finest materials available, simply never felt the particular chill that gripped the ordinary peasant household through the long, dark months of the year. The genuine historical record tells a considerably more complicated story. Medieval castles and royal palaces, however grand in scale and however richly furnished, were built substantially of stone, a material whose very solidity and defensive strength worked directly against the retention of warmth, absorbing the cold of a harsh winter into its thick walls and radiating that same cold back into the rooms it enclosed for as long as the freezing weather persisted outside. This is the story of how medieval Europe's royal families actually confronted the challenge of sleeping through the continent's coldest and most dangerous winters, a story built not on any simple assumption that wealth eliminated discomfort, but on the genuine, documented strategies, architectural, material, and human, that royal households developed to manage a cold that even the grandest stone castle could never entirely exclude. It is a story of enormous fireplaces and elaborate bed hangings, of furs reserved by law for only the highest ranks of society, and of a royal household staffed specifically to ensure it, even amid the coldest night of the year, a king, queen, or royal child might sleep in reasonable safety, comfort. Chapter 2: The Cold Reality of the Stone Castle. The medieval castle, whatever its considerable defensive and symbolic advantages, presented a genuine architectural challenge when it came to retaining warmth through a harsh winter. Thick stone walls, essential to a castle's defensive purpose, possessed a thermal mass that, once thoroughly chilled by sustained winter cold, could take a considerable time to warm again, meaning that even a well-tended fire within a castle chamber often struggled to overcome the persistent, radiating cold of the surrounding stone. High ceilings, common in the grander halls and chambers of royal and noble residences, and reflecting the architectural ambition and status display considered appropriate to royal building, similarly worked against efficient heating, since warm air naturally rose well above the level at which people actually lived and slept, a problem the smaller, low-ceilinged peasant cottage, discussed in earlier accounts of medieval domestic architecture, did not face nearly to the same degree. Windows within royal residences, increasingly fitted with glass across the later medieval centuries, as this once rare and expensive material became more widely available to the wealthiest households, still provided considerably less effective insulation than a solid wall, and the larger, more numerous windows favored in grander royal and noble architecture, intended to display wealth and admit valued natural light, correspondingly increased a chamber's vulnerability to heat loss during the winter months, a genuine architectural tension between the display of royal magnificence and the practical demands of staying warm that shaped castle design across the medieval period. Chapter 3: The Great Fireplace and Its Limits. Royal and noble residences across medieval Europe increasingly incorporated substantial stone fireplaces built directly into a chamber's wall and, from roughly the 12th century onward, connected to increasingly sophisticated chimney systems that carried smoke effectively out of the building, a genuine architectural advance over the simpler open hearths and smoke holes still common in more ordinary medieval homes. Surviving castles and royal residences across England, France, and elsewhere in medieval Europe preserve considerable physical evidence of these substantial fireplace installations, some large enough to accommodate genuinely significant quantities of burning wood, reflecting the greater fuel resources available to a royal household compared to an ordinary peasant family. Yet even these substantial fireplaces faced real practical limits in heating the large, high-ceilinged chambers typical of royal residences, and surviving household accounts documenting the considerable quantities of firewood consumed by royal households through the winter months confirm that maintaining adequate warmth required a genuinely significant, continuous investment of fuel and labor. Royal chambers were frequently designed where the building's broader layout permitted to take advantage of a fireplace's heat as efficiently as possible, including the placement of a royal bed in reasonably close proximity to the hearth, and household ordinances from various medieval royal courts, including surviving English royal household regulations, specifically address the responsibilities of servants tasked with maintaining an adequate fire within the royal chamber through the day and into the evening hours preceding sleep. Chapter 4: Tapestries as Living Insulation. Among the most visually striking and, in genuinely practical terms, functionally important features of a medieval royal chamber were the large woven tapestries that commonly covered substantial portions of a room's stone walls. While these tapestries carried enormous symbolic and artistic significance, displaying wealth, dynastic imagery, and considerable artistic achievement, and while their decorative and status-signaling function receives the greatest attention in most surviving accounts and later historical study, also served a genuinely important practical purpose in the specific context of this account, providing a meaningful layer of insulation between a chamber's occupants and the cold, damp stone walls that would otherwise have radiated their chill directly into the room. Surviving inventories from various medieval royal households, including detailed records maintained for English and French royal collections, confirm the considerable value and quantity of tapestries maintained by the wealthiest medieval courts, and the practice of moving these tapestries between different royal residences as a court itself traveled. A pattern discussed further in a later chapter reflects genuine practical concern for ensuring that whichever residence currently housed the royal household received the benefit of this valuable insulating material alongside its considerable decorative and political significance, particularly during the winter months when a chamber's thermal comfort depended so substantially on exactly this kind of layered material insulation between the stone structure itself and the people living and sleeping within it. Chapter 5: The Royal Bed Itself. The royal bed, considerably more elaborate than the modest lectus of ancient Rome, discussed in earlier accounts, or the straw pallet of the ordinary medieval peasant, represented a genuine investment of resources and craftsmanship reflecting the highest standards of wealth available within medieval European society. Surviving inventories and household accounts from various medieval royal courts describe beds constructed with substantial wooden frames, elaborately carved in some documented cases, and fitted with heavy curtains and hangings, referred to in various period sources by terms including tester, canopy, that could be drawn closed around the sleeper to create precisely the kind of enclosed, more easily warm sleeping space already discussed in earlier accounts of medieval curtained beds among the wealthy more generally, though royal beds represented this same principle carried to its most elaborate and costly medieval expression. Mattresses within royal beds were typically filled with down or feathers, rather than the straw common to ordinary households, offering genuinely superior insulation and comfort. And surviving inventories document the considerable quantities of fine linen, wool, and fur bedding maintained by medieval royal households specifically for use across their various residences and, importantly, across the different seasons of the year, with documented evidence confirming that royal households maintained distinct sets of heavier winter bedding brought into use as the colder months approached, a genuine seasonal rotation of household furnishing that reflects the careful, deliberate management royal households applied to the practical challenge of seasonal comfort. Chapter 6: Furs reserved for the crown. The use of fur as a primary material for both clothing and bedding among medieval European royalty and high nobility reflected both genuine practical value in providing exceptional warmth and a carefully regulated system of social status display that restricted access to the finest and most valuable furs, specifically to the highest ranks of medieval society. Ermine, the winter coat of the stoat, prized for its brilliant white color marked with distinctive black tail tips, became particularly and enduringly associated with medieval and later European royalty, appearing extensively in royal ceremonial dress, according to surviving inventory evidence. Within royal bedding as well, while sable, another highly prized fur imported through extensive medieval trade networks reaching into northern and eastern Europe, similarly carried strong association with the very highest ranks of medieval wealth and status. Sumptuary laws, enacted across various medieval European kingdoms and explicitly restricting the wearing of certain furs and other luxury materials to specific social ranks, confirmed the genuine legal and cultural significance medieval society attached to these materials as markers of status entirely separate from, though certainly reinforced by, their genuine practical value in providing warmth, and surviving accounts and inventories documenting the considerable quantities of these prized furs maintained by medieval royal households, both as clothing and as bedding, illustrate the particular combination of practical winter necessity and elaborate status display that characterized royal engagement with the challenge of nighttime warmth throughout the medieval period. Chapter 7: The servants who tended the royal night. A medieval royal chamber depended on a considerable staff of dedicated servants whose specific responsibilities extended directly into the practical management of the sovereign's comfort through the night. Roles documented in reasonable detail within surviving royal household ordinances across various medieval European courts. English royal household regulations, including detailed ordinances surviving from various points across the medieval period, describe specific staff positions, including grooms and ushers of the chamber, whose duties included the careful preparation of the royal bed each evening, the maintenance of an adequate fire, and, in some documented arrangements, remaining available through at least a portion of the night to respond to any need the sovereign might have. This considerable staffing represented a genuinely important practical advantage available to medieval royalty that no ordinary household, however wealthy by comparison to the peasantry, could realistically replicate, ensuring that the various practical strategies for maintaining warmth already discussed throughout this account, including the careful management of fire, the proper arrangement of bedding, and the timely closing of protective bed curtains, could be executed with a consistency and attentiveness that depended directly on the availability of dedicated staff whose entire professional responsibility centered on exactly this kind of careful, ongoing household management extending well into the evening and nighttime hours. Chapter 8: Layers beneath the royal crown. Medieval royal and noble clothing worn for sleep followed the same basic principle already discussed in earlier accounts of medieval sleepwear more broadly, relying on linen undergarments, particularly during the winter months, additional woolen layers retained through the night, though royal and noble households possessed access to considerably finer materials and greater quantities of such garments than the ordinary population. Surviving inventories occasionally document specific garments intended for nighttime wear among medieval royalty and nobility, including robes and nightcaps constructed of fine wool or in the most luxurious documented examples, lined with the same valuable furs already discussed in an earlier chapter, reflecting the same underlying strategy of layered insulation found throughout medieval society, executed with considerably greater material luxury among the very highest ranks. Head coverings, as discussed in earlier, broader accounts of medieval sleeping practice, held particular importance for royal and noble sleepers, just as they did for ordinary households, and surviving evidence confirms the continued use of soft caps or coifs for sleep among medieval elites, a detail that, however modest in isolation, confirms an important underlying continuity running throughout this entire broader history, that certain fundamental strategies for preserving body heat through a cold night, including the careful covering of the head, remained essentially consistent across every level of medieval society. However dramatically, the specific materials and elaboration of these strategies might vary between a peasant's simple woolen cap and a queen's fur-lined nightcap. Chapter 9: A Court that Moved with the Seasons. Medieval European royal courts frequently practiced a pattern of seasonal or periodic movement between different royal residences, a practice driven by a combination of practical, political, and economic considerations that included, among other factors, the genuine advantage of moving a royal household to whichever available residence offered the most favorable conditions for the particular season at hand. Surviving itineraries documenting the movements of various medieval English and French royal ports confirm this pattern of periodic relocation. And while the primary drivers of this itinerant pattern generally involved the practical necessity of consuming a region's accumulated food stores and reasserting royal presence and authority across different portions of a kingdom, the specific timing and destination of winter residence occasionally reflected genuine consideration of which available royal property offered the most favorable defensive and thermal characteristics for the coldest months of the year. Certain royal residences, including specific favored winter properties documented across various medieval European monarchies, acquired particular reputation and continued use specifically during the winter season, reflecting genuine accumulated practical experience regarding which buildings, through some combination of favorable construction, orientation, and the availability of adequate fuel supply from surrounding royal woodland, offered superior conditions for enduring the coldest months, a pattern of practical seasonal decision-making that connects the specific challenge of royal winter comfort directly to the broader, well-documented itinerant character of medieval royal governance more generally. Chapter 10: When Even Kings Recorded the Cold. The historical record confirms that medieval royal courts experienced and explicitly documented genuinely severe winter conditions on numerous occasions across the medieval period, offering valuable, concrete evidence of how even the most well-resourced households in medieval society experienced and responded to exceptional cold. Surviving English royal household accounts and chronicle sources document specific instances of severe winter weather affecting royal courts, including documented periods when the River Thames itself froze solid enough to be crossed on foot near London, events that, whatever their broader significance for the city's population as a whole, also directly affected the practical operation and comfort of the nearby royal court at Westminster and other Thameside royal residences. French royal and chronicle sources similarly document severe winters affecting the medieval French court, including documented instances unusually harsh cold significant enough to warrant specific chronicled mention, and in some surviving accounts, explicit reference to the particular measures taken by the royal household to manage the resulting hardship, confirming that the elaborate architectural, material, and staffing strategies discussed throughout this account however genuinely more sophisticated and resource-intensive than those available to the ordinary medieval population. Still, operated within real limits that an exceptionally severe winter could meaningfully test. A pattern entirely consistent with the broader historical evidence discussed throughout earlier accounts in this broader series, confirming that no level of medieval wealth or resource ever entirely eliminated the genuine seasonal challenge winter posed across every level of medieval European society. Chapter 11: Royal Infants and the Winter Nursery. The particular vulnerability of infants to winter cold, discussed in earlier, broader accounts of medieval childhood, carried its own specific and carefully documented expression within medieval royal households, where the survival of a royal infant, particularly one representing a kingdom's hope for dynastic succession, carried consequence extending well beyond the immediate family itself. Surviving royal household ordinances and accounts document specific arrangements made for the care of royal infants, including dedicated nursery staff and wet nurses, and specific provision of appropriate bedding and chamber heating intended to protect an infant's particular vulnerability to cold. Reflecting the same underlying practical concern already discussed in earlier accounts of medieval infant care, executed with the considerably greater material resources available to a royal household. The genuine, well-documented anxiety surrounding royal infant mortality, a risk that afflicted royal families, despite their considerable material advantages, just as it afflicted the ordinary population, confirms that the particular vulnerability of infancy to the dangers of a medieval winter, including cold, illness, and the various other risks already discussed throughout this broader series, was never entirely eliminated by royal wealth, however much that wealth allowed for more elaborate, staff-intensive, and materially superior efforts to manage and mitigate this genuine and universally shared medieval vulnerability. Chapter 12: Separate Chambers, Shared Cold. Medieval royal marriage and household arrangements frequently involved separate chambers for a king and queen, an arrangement reflecting broader medieval conventions regarding royal privacy, ceremony, and the particular political and dynastic significance attached to royal reproduction discussed within its own careful ceremonial and sometimes explicitly documented context across various medieval royal courts. This arrangement of separate royal chambers meant that the specific practical strategies for managing nighttime cold already discussed throughout this account, including fire management, bedding, and dedicated household staff, were frequently maintained and executed separately for the king's own chamber and the queen's own chamber, each equipped with its own fireplace, bedding, and dedicated staff responsible for that particular chamber's comfort and preparation. Surviving household accounts documenting the specific expenditure associated with maintaining these separate royal chambers confirm the genuine, considerable resources devoted to ensuring that both the king's and queen's separate sleeping arrangements received the full benefit of the practical winter warming strategies discussed throughout this account, a pattern of duplicated household investment and staffing that further illustrates the genuinely considerable resource advantage available to a royal household compared to the ordinary medieval family, who, as discussed in earlier accounts of medieval peasant sleeping arrangements, typically shared a single bed and a single set of bedding among the entire household regardless of individual preference or status. Chapter 13: Hunting Lodges and the Rural Winter Residence. Medieval European royalty frequently maintained smaller rural hunting lodges and manor residences in addition to their grander principal castles and palaces, properties that occasionally served specific seasonal purposes within the broader itinerant pattern of royal residence already discussed in an earlier chapter. Certain of these smaller rural properties, while generally associated in surviving records more directly with the specific recreational pursuit of hunting than with any particular winter thermal advantage, nonetheless offered, through their generally smaller scale and correspondingly more modest chamber dimensions, certain practical advantages for winter habitation that the larger,
more architecturally ambitious principal royal residences, with their higher ceilings and more extensive chambers, did not always provide to the same degree. Surviving records documenting royal use of such smaller residences during the winter months, while considerably less extensive than the documentation available for grander royal palaces and castles, offer historians valuable additional evidence regarding the practical considerations that shaped medieval royal decisions about seasonal residence, confirming that even the wealthiest and most powerful medieval rulers gave genuine, practical consideration to which available property might offer the most favorable conditions for enduring a difficult winter, a consideration entirely consistent with the broader pattern of careful, deliberate winter preparation this account has documented across every level of medieval society, from the humblest peasant cottage to the grandest royal court. Chapter 14, Prayer Before the Royal Bed. Religious observance before sleep, discussed in earlier, broader accounts of medieval nighttime spiritual practice, carried particular ceremonial elaboration within medieval royal households, where the sovereign's own religious devotion frequently involved dedicated chapel staff, elaborate devotional objects, and specific documented prayers and religious observance forming a regular part of the royal household's evening routine before retiring to sleep. Surviving royal household ordinances document specific provision for chaplains and religious staff attached directly to the royal household, ensuring that the sovereign's evening religious observance, including the kind of protective prayer against nighttime spiritual danger already discussed in earlier accounts of medieval belief, more broadly, could be conducted with the full ceremonial and spiritual resources available to the wealthiest and most powerful households in medieval Christian society. This elaborated royal devotional practice, while sharing the same underlying theological concern regarding nighttime spiritual vulnerability already discussed throughout earlier accounts in this broader series, reflects once again the broader pattern this account has traced throughout, in which royal households approached the shared, universal challenges of the medieval night, whether physical cold or spiritual vulnerability, through the same fundamental strategies employed across medieval society more broadly, executed with the considerably greater material and institutional resources that royal wealth and status made available. Chapter 15, The Great Wardrobe and the Machinery of Royal Comfort. Behind the elaborate bedding, furs, and hangings already discussed throughout this account stood a genuinely substantial administrative and logistical operation dedicated specifically to procuring, storing, and maintaining these materials on the royal household's behalf. The English royal administration maintained a dedicated department, known as the Great Wardrobe, documented in considerable surviving detail across medieval English administrative records, responsible for acquiring and managing an enormous range of textiles, furs, and household furnishings on the Crown's behalf, including the specific bedding, curtains, and clothing materials already discussed throughout this account as essential to royal winter comfort. Surviving Great Wardrobe accounts, preserved in reasonable detail within English medieval administrative archives, document specific purchases of wool, linen, fur, and other materials intended for royal use, along with the considerable body of skilled craftspeople, including tailors, furriers, and upholsterers, employed either directly by the royal household or through contracted arrangement to transform these raw materials into the finished bedding, curtains, and clothing the royal family actually used. This substantial administrative infrastructure, largely invisible within the more immediately visible splendor of the royal bedchamber itself, represents an essential and genuinely underappreciated part of the broader story this account has told, confirming that royal winter comfort depended not merely on the wealth to acquire fine materials, but on a genuinely sophisticated and continuously operating administrative system dedicated specifically to ensuring those materials reached the royal household in appropriate quantity and condition. Chapter 16, Moving the Royal Bed. The itinerant character of medieval royal court life, already discussed in an earlier chapter, carried direct and genuinely significant practical consequence for how a royal household managed its bedding and chamber furnishings, since a court moving between different residences across the year required either the maintenance of separate, fully furnished bedding at each individual property, or the considerable logistical undertaking of transporting a substantial quantity of bedding, hangings, and furniture along with the traveling royal household itself. Surviving records documenting medieval royal travel confirm that considerable quantities of household goods, including bedding and furnishings, were indeed transported along with a traveling royal court, requiring a substantial supporting apparatus of carts, pack animals, and dedicated household staff specifically responsible for the careful packing, transport, and reinstallation of these materials at each new residence. This practical logistical reality meant that the elaborate, carefully arranged royal bedchamber described throughout this account represented not a fixed, permanently installed arrangement, but rather a portable system of furnishing that traveled with the sovereign, reassembled at each new location by dedicated household staff working to ensure that, whatever residence a royal household currently occupied, the same essential strategies for managing nighttime cold, discussed throughout this account, could be reliably and consistently executed, a genuinely impressive logistical achievement that further illustrates the substantial administrative and human resources medieval royal households directed toward the practical challenge of winter comfort. Chapter 17, Warmth Carried in a Vessel. Beyond the substantial fixed fireplaces already discussed in earlier chapters, medieval royal and noble households made use of various portable heating devices intended to provide supplementary warmth to specific areas of a chamber or directly to a person, including chafing dishes and small portable braziers similar in basic principle to those already discussed in earlier accounts of ordinary Roman and later medieval household heating. Surviving inventories from medieval royal households occasionally document such portable heating vessels, typically constructed of metal and capable of holding burning charcoal, positioned within a chamber to provide additional localized warmth beyond what the room's principal fireplace alone could reliably provide, particularly useful in the larger, harder-to-heat chambers characteristic of grander royal architecture. The direct warming of a bed itself through the application of heated materials, a practice that would become considerably more elaborately developed and commonly documented during the early modern period through the specific device known as the warming pan, appears in more limited and less definitively documented form within the strictly medieval period itself, though the underlying practical logic, applying a source of contained, controlled heat directly to bedding before a sleeper retired for the night, connects clearly to the broader medieval tradition of portable heating already discussed throughout this chapter, representing an early and less formally documented stage within the same continuous historical development that would eventually produce the more elaborate and widely used warming devices of later centuries. Chapter 18, When the Court Itself Fell Ill. The close, confined conditions of a medieval royal court during the winter months, when reduced travel and extended indoor confinement brought the royal household and its considerable supporting staff into closer and more sustained proximity than the more dispersed patterns of activity typical of warmer seasons, created genuine conditions for the spread of illness, a concern already discussed in broader terms in earlier accounts of medieval winter health more generally. Surviving chronicle and household accounts document instances of illness affecting medieval royal courts during the winter months, including documented cases of respiratory ailments and other seasonal illness affecting members of the royal family and household alike, confirming that the same genuine winter health vulnerabilities already discussed throughout this broader series extended, in modified but genuinely real form, even to the most materially privileged households in medieval society. Royal physicians, whose services and medical training, grounded in the same humoral medical framework already discussed in earlier accounts of medieval medicine, represented a genuine resource, generally unavailable to the ordinary medieval population, attended royal patients through winter illness. With whatever combination of period-appropriate remedy, dietary adjustment, and practical care their training and available knowledge allowed, a level of dedicated medical attention that, whatever its genuine limitations, when measured against modern medical understanding, nonetheless represented considerable practical advantage available to royal households confronting the same underlying winter health challenges that affected medieval society at every level. Chapter 19: Winter Courts Beyond England and France. The particular strategies for managing royal winter comfort, already discussed throughout this account, while drawn substantially from the relatively well-documented cases of medieval English and French royal households, found parallel and regionally adapted expression across the other royal and princely courts of medieval Europe, including the various courts of the Holy Roman Empire, whose considerable territorial extent across Central Europe encompassed winter conditions ranging from the comparatively milder regions of the south to the genuinely severe winters characteristic of the empire's more northern and eastern territories. Surviving records from various German-speaking princely courts document broadly similar strategies to those already discussed throughout this account, including substantial fireplace installations, elaborate bedding, and dedicated household staff, adapted to the specific architectural traditions and available materials of each particular region and court. The royal courts of medieval Scandinavia, confronting winter conditions considerably more severe than those typical of England or France, developed correspondingly more intensive strategies for managing royal winter comfort, including, according to surviving evidence, greater reliance on the substantial masonry stove technology already discussed in earlier, broader accounts of Eastern and Northern European winter heating, a technology capable of retaining heat considerably longer than the open fireplace more typical of English and French royal architecture, reflecting a genuine, practical regional adaptation of royal winter strategy to the specific, more severe climatic demands these northern courts actually faced. Chapter 20: A Warmer Corner of Christendom. By contrast, the royal courts of medieval Iberia and southern Italy, situated within considerably milder Mediterranean climate zones, developed winter strategies reflecting the more moderate seasonal challenge these southern courts actually faced, generally requiring less of the elaborate, intensive heating infrastructure already discussed throughout this account in relation to England, France, and the more northern courts of the Holy Roman Empire and Scandinavia. Surviving records from medieval Iberian royal courts, including those of the various Christian kingdoms of the peninsula, suggest a winter strategy considerably closer to the more modest approach already discussed in earlier, broader accounts of Mediterranean winter life, more generally relying more heavily on clothing adjustment, portable braziers, and the practical concentration of activity within smaller, more easily warmed chambers during the comparatively brief and mild winter season these southern territories typically experienced. This meaningful regional variation across medieval Europe's various royal courts confirms, at the very highest level of medieval society, precisely the same broader pattern of climatically adapted regional practice already documented throughout this series in relation to ordinary medieval households, monasteries, and rural settlements across the diverse climate zones of medieval Europe, illustrating that even royal wealth and status, however considerable, still operated within a broader framework of practical, climate-driven adaptation rather than any single, universally applied medieval royal standard of winter comfort. Chapter 21: The Winters the Chroniclers Remembered. Beyond the specific documented instances already discussed in an earlier chapter concerning severe winter weather affecting the English and French royal courts, the broader chronicle record of medieval Europe preserves numerous additional accounts of exceptionally harsh winters affecting royal and princely courts across the continent, offering historians a genuinely rich body of evidence regarding how the highest levels of medieval society experienced and responded to genuine winter crisis. Chronicle accounts from various medieval kingdoms document specific instances of unusually prolonged and severe cold significantly disrupting ordinary royal court activity, including documented delays to royal travel, difficulty maintaining adequate fuel supply, even for well-resourced royal households, and, in certain particularly severe documented instances, genuine hardship and discomfort acknowledged, even within the generally more restrained and formal register typical of official chronicle writing concerning royal affairs. These chronicled accounts of severe winter affecting royal courts serve as a valuable corrective to any assumption that medieval royal wealth provided complete insulation from winter's genuine dangers, confirming instead that the elaborate architectural, material, and staffing strategies this account has documented throughout represented a genuinely significant, but never absolute, defense against a challenge that, in its most severe and exceptional historical expression, could meaningfully affect even the best-resourced households in medieval European society, a pattern entirely consistent with the broader historical evidence already discussed throughout this wider series regarding the genuine limits facing every level of medieval society when confronted with truly exceptional winter conditions. Chapter 22: Governing Through the Cold. The practical business of medieval royal governance did not simply pause during the winter months, and surviving
administrative records confirm that royal councils, courts of law, and the ordinary machinery of medieval royal administration continued to function through the winter season, requiring the royal household's advisors, officials, and visiting petitioners alike to conduct genuine business within the same cold castle chambers and halls already discussed throughout this account. Surviving records occasionally document specific complaint or comment regarding the genuine discomfort of conducting formal business within inadequately heated royal chambers during the winter months, offering valuable incidental evidence that the challenge of winter cold extended beyond the specifically private concern of royal sleep already emphasized throughout most of this account, into the broader, more public functioning of medieval royal government itself. This continued winter governance required its own practical accommodation, including the selective heating of specific chambers used for formal council meetings or judicial proceedings, and surviving household accounts documenting fuel expenditure for such administrative spaces separate from the fuel accounts already discussed in relation to private royal sleeping chambers, confirm that medieval royal households approached the practical challenge of winter warmth as a genuinely comprehensive concern, extending across the full range of a royal household's various functions, private and public alike, rather than a challenge narrowly confined to the specific matter of nighttime sleep that has formed the primary focus of this broader account. Chapter 23: Ceremony versus Comfort. Medieval royal ceremonial occasions, including coronations and other significant state events that might fall during the winter months, according to the particular demands of dynastic and political circumstance, frequently required royal participants to wear elaborate ceremonial garments whose design prioritized visual magnificence and symbolic significance over practical winter warmth, creating a genuine and occasionally documented tension between the ceremonial demands of royal display and the practical comfort strategies otherwise discussed throughout this account. Surviving accounts of specific medieval royal ceremonial occasions occasionally include incidental reference to the genuine discomfort experienced by royal participants required to wear elaborate but relatively thin ceremonial robes during cold winter services or processions, a tension between symbolic display and practical comfort that connects the specific challenge of medieval royal winter life to the broader, more universal medieval experience already discussed throughout this wider series, in which the demands of social display and status frequently required real, documented sacrifice of practical physical comfort. This tension between ceremony and comfort offers a valuable final reminder that royal life, whatever its genuine and considerable material advantages already documented throughout this account, remained bound by its own particular set of demands and constraints, including the requirement, at specific significant moments, to prioritize the visual and symbolic demands of royal ceremony over the same practical winter comfort strategies that royal households otherwise pursued with such genuine and considerable care during the ordinary, unceremonial course of daily winter life. Chapter 24: What royal records preserve. Much of what historians today understand about how medieval royal families actually managed the challenge of winter comfort comes from the genuinely rich and unusually well-preserved body of administrative and household record maintained by medieval royal governments, including the Great Wardrobe. Accounts already discussed in an earlier chapter,
detailed household ordinances specifying the responsibilities of chamber staff, and the surviving inventories documenting the considerable quantities of bedding, furs, and furnishings maintained by various medieval royal households across their different residences. This administrative record, considerably more extensive and systematically preserved than the equivalent evidence available for ordinary medieval households, offers historians an unusually detailed and reliable window into the specific practical strategies pursued by medieval Europe's wealthiest and most powerful families in their own ongoing effort to manage the shared, universal challenge of winter cold. Chronicle accounts surviving royal correspondence and the occasional more personal or incidental reference preserved within a range of medieval literary and documentary sources further supplement this substantial administrative record, together allowing historians to reconstruct, with a degree of confidence and specific documentary detail rarely available for the equivalent experience of ordinary medieval households, the genuine, lived reality of how medieval royal families across England, France, and the wider courts of medieval Europe actually prepared for, endured, and occasionally suffered through the coldest and most dangerous winters their era could produce. Chapter 25: What wealth could and could not buy. The story of how medieval royal families slept through Europe's coldest winters is, in its fullest sense, a story about the genuine limits of even the greatest medieval wealth when confronted with the same fundamental physical challenge, that faced every household across medieval society. The great fireplace, the fur-lined bed, the tapestry-covered wall, and the dedicated staff of servants tending the royal chamber through the night together represented an extraordinary concentration of resources and craftsmanship, considerably beyond anything available to the ordinary medieval family. Yet these same elaborate strategies remained, in their essential underlying logic, direct extensions of the very same fundamental principles: layered insulation, careful fire management, and shared or supplemented body warmth, that shaped how every medieval household, regardless of wealth, approached the shared challenge of surviving a cold winter night. What genuinely distinguished the medieval royal experience of winter was not any fundamentally different solution to the problem of cold, but rather the sheer scale of resource, skilled labor, and material luxury a royal household could direct toward executing these same essential strategies. Distinction of degree rather than of kind that connects the king sleeping beneath his curtained, fur-covered bed within a fire-warmed chamber directly to the peasant family sharing a single straw pallet beneath their own more modest woolen blankets, both households drawing, each according to its own considerable or modest means, upon the same accumulated body of practical medieval winter wisdom this broader series has sought throughout to document and understand. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment.